I recently got the joke.
Run the thing.
The joke.
That Valve releases Steam. I got that joke.
Guys, Michael B. news.
Okay.
Michael B. News.
What is Tails' name?
Who?
Tails
From
from Sonic.
Tails Sonic.
Quentin here. I'm fine, babe.
This is Ethan. Nah, I'm gonna go. Don't worry, Devin's here. This is time. Let's rock and roll!
Welcome to the Power Brothers podcast, where we all sound the same and our points don't matter. I'm not introducing myself.
No one is.
Today, two of us sound different than the other three of us.
Sure do.
Yeah.
Who's the other one?
No one knows.
His Italian genetics really give him the ability to not sound like the rest of us.
Exactly.
They give him a distinct evolutionary advantage here.
Yeah, the schnoz.
Yeah.
Rachel,
he can absorb
Speak at a
more
higher
oxygen.
frequency than you all.
Yeah.
How's the corner?
Corner's nice and cozy,
Nice.
as
Cozy.
always.
Yep.
Yep.
Someday we'll get you a backdrop. It's not.
No, I like the
Grandma
random
curtains.
bat of fabric back there.
Yeah.
One of these days, we're going to get a green screen backdrop, and then she's going to be in some really
gonna be
interesting
in
places.
space.
Yeah.
On the Windows XP background.
Oh, my God.
Oh, I would love
Incredible.
that.
You got the
Screensaver.
DVD bouncer behind you.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
If we ever get that, every short will be that just to keep people's attention.
yeah.
We'll be talking and you can't see us just because DVD bouncing. How was everybody's week? How's everybody's week going?
Oh, not too bad.
Good.
Exhausting.
Yeah. Staying busy this week, despite it being cold and the off season for where I work.
Yeah.
I just have like a lot of stuff going
Sure.
on. So it's been nice to have like it's been tough to have a little less work in general, but it's been nice to have a little more time to get things done.
I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm in the
makes sense.
same boat. And I think that I want to just give a shout out to Nintendo for giving us something to talk about because video games are a little quiet in January.
Wrong.
Like right after the holiday craziness. The rest of the industry sort of quiets down.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all kind of in anticipation of the next big wave of announcements.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
coming.
Microsoft already had their thing, and
Did they?
They gave up.
yeah, they
I
had
didn't
their
even know.
developer-
What's the new Xbox called?
No, they it's just they announced like their slate of games. I think a fighting game got an announcement, and maybe
FIFA.
like Ninja Gaiden.
Before you keep going, that sounds like news, which is supposed to be in the news. If you're watching this, it's because you like morons babbling endlessly about video games, and you want the Star Fox franchise to come back.
Yes.
or
if
because
that's
YouTube
true-
pushed a random video your direction, and
Probably
you don't
that
know who
one.
any of these people are, but you don't like how they sound.
But if the other two are correct, go do a barrel roll on that subscribe button. Shoot a charge shot at the like button. Leave a comment.
Truly.
When did you
Horrible.
become a father, Devin?
Push the bell too.
Oh, yeah, ring the bell.
hit the bell
I'm
so
gonna
you get
take a-
subscribed when we upload.
I'll take a wild shot in the dark here and say that you, dear viewer, have never hit the bell on any video ever.
No.
So we can be the first. Hit the bell. Who knows what will happen?
You know,
I don't know.
I don't even know what it does.
I've never hit the
There
bell
was a
before.
guy-
I have never hit the bell either. So we can find out together.
Yeah, we'll
No.
see what happens.
Yeah.
There was a guy. I feel bad. I'm losing what his name was, but he was a Pro Smash player.
Yeah.
He was with the now defunct Panda channel, and in their videos, he would always go and ring the bell like that. And I miss him.
Oh,
I don't know what
yeah.
happened to
That's
him.
pretty funny.
If you're
We're
out
all
there,
worried
ring the
about
bell
him.
guy.
Yeah.
Give us a
Yeah.
shout out.
We're thinking about
We
you.
might
Love to have you on the
podcast.
Yeah.
Glad you're not with Panda, guys. Switch 2.
Yeah.
Switch to flash sale, fire sale.
Yeah.
Yes.
Put it in the tag.
Put it in the tag.
Switch
We
to-
moved on from PS5 Pro Fire Sale.
No,
Switch 2 is much more
it's a
popular
Switch
now.
2
We
now.
need to be, and at some point we'll combine them. Do Switch 2 versus PS5 Pro
Yeah.
Fire Sale.
Yeah.
That's coming.
Yeah.
We put Switch 2 pre-sales. Click here now.
Click here
Yes,
now.
correct.
Fortnite, Super Mario.
Arcane
Yeah.
reference.
Now I got to interesting. What I thought was pretty interesting about the Switch 2.
Yeah.
Is the fact this is from Nintendo Life. apparently, the Switch 2 announcement is already beginning to influence the gaming industry in the form of Steam Deck sales. Valve reported that after the Switch 2 was announced, Steam Deck sales dropped.
Well, I feel like
Big drop.
if you were looking to play the upcoming games, you can't do it on a Switch.
Nope.
And if you want to do it mobile, Steam Deck is your only option.
Sure.
But I think everybody's starting to go, well, maybe these games will come out on Switch too.
That makes a lot of sense because, like, I've been thinking about getting a Steam Deck, and that thought has been gone for a while.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah.
Most indie games come out on the Switch anyway.
Yep.
So,
It's the big, like, the rumor mill about big third-party games coming out on Switch 2 is out of control, as it always is.
Yeah.
But
some people are even saying that the only reason they talked about it in January when the Direct is in April is because they want people to go ahead and third parties to go ahead and say, this is on Switch 2.
This is on Switch 2. And, like, one of the things is that I think with many current gen titles coming out running on Steam Deck, and Switch 2 being projected to be ahead of where Steam Deck is in terms of hardware and fairly competitive in terms of price. People are just assuming those games are coming there and will be released there. My news section is that this week Final Fantasy VII Rebirth launched on PC. Square Enix famously horrible PC ports.
Very bad.
And
they don't know what they're doing.
Really bad.
I think it's because they outsource it and don't pay attention to it.
Generally. Rebirth's great.
Really?
PC port. Yeah.
Cool.
Really, really well done. Not perfect. Like, they're not still not world class, but runs very stably and Steam Deck verified.
See, and what's interesting about that to me...
Steam Deck verified?
Yeah. Valve certifies or
verifies if a game
works on Steam Deck.
Because you have to, because...
Does it have a blue check mark?
It has a green check mark.
It has a green check mark.
Gosh.
That's correct.
Yeah.
The future.
And now I'm sure it's running at 30 frames per second all the things.
For sure.
But I have been seeing YouTubers post about how you can force AMD frame generation in the game and get it to 60 on Steam Deck.
That's
pretty
pretty cool.
reliable.
I've always been very skeptical of the idea that the Steam Deck is at all like influential on the Switch and vice versa outside of the like core gaming zeitgeist. If you're going to Linus Tech Tips what Linus did a breakdown between the Switch and the Steam Deck. Yeah, he's like he's got his fingers on the pulse of like the core gaming audience.
He literally has a chip in his hand.
Yeah, he literally does have a chip in his hand.
He's technically a cyborg.
He is technically a cyborg.
Correct.
Don't bring that at me.
Yeah, don't
tell me like, well, this thing has gone mainstream. The cyborg man on the screen I watched told me. No, just because the cyborg is plugged into it doesn't mean me and you are.
And that's the thing too, is like the Steam Deck was an extremely successful PC handheld because it broke 1 million. That's insane.
Yeah.
Most of them are lucky if they hit like 100,000. That's a really successful
pretty
one.
niche market.
The Steam Deck hit 1 million.
Doesn't it cost like $1,000?
No, the Steam Deck, that's probably why it hit 1 million, is that it's like $400 for its lowest end.
Yeah.
The Switch is currently sitting at like 157 or something.
Sure.
Like 148 million the last time I looked.
Sure.
That's not...
The Wii U beat like was 13 million. So like we're in different realms.
It's a different market, but this is what's interesting to me is to see that the announcement of a Nintendo console can influence the Steam Deck.
Yeah. Producer, check how many Steam Decks have been sold.
Yeah.
I'm actually interested in that number. I've never looked it up.
I'm gonna add in a clickety clack.
Clickety clack. Yeah.
In all
Google
the
video
world.
games.
So far, no, that's wrong. Stupid AI.
The AIs are
dumb.
dumb.
The AI.
I hate Google AI. It's
I asked my AI to
careful.
do the dishes for
Oh my
me.
god! I mentioned Google AI, and your phone like lit up and started like.
You've angered her.
A laser reticle appears on your forehead.
I love Google.
I love you, Gemini.
But while she's looking that up, I wanted to say that I think there's a narrow like swath of people, because like if you're buying a Nintendo Switch, it's probably for Nintendo games, and then it optionally might be for like indie games. It has really good indie game support, and then there's like a narrow swath of people that want to play current gen or even like next gen titles
Yeah.
on the go, and those people might, if they don't want either of those other two sections, might go, well, I'll just get a Steam Deck, I'll be fine.
Sure.
It's a narrow swath of people, but it does exist.
I've always said it. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
it feels like buying a Steam Deck like wouldn't let me play any games that I can't play already.
Yeah.
It would let me
right.
play them in a different area, in a different like context.
Portable.
But there isn't a game like I can stream to my phone if I really wanted to play somewhere else.
Yeah.
But with a new Nintendo console, it's all those things you mentioned and games that I wouldn't access otherwise.
Exactly.
So yeah, I get why it's very different markets, but it's interesting to see that it was affected.
I always said it's like lions and tigers. It's really fun to go which would win in a fight, a lion or a tiger. In the wild, those two things don't interact at all. Like, we're literally just comparing them because they look similar and they have similar features. But when you look at the way they're actually existing in the world, they have nothing to do with each other.
I mean,
like,
one escaped at the zoo.
and fought the other one probably.
No, they worked together to destroy all the guests.
Quentin, Ty just watched a weird version of the Madagascar movie.
Yeah,
Like,
it was horrifying.
yeah.
This is apparently Valve has not like put out an official number,
That
but
makes sense.
it's 3 million. 3 million is the number I keep seeing pop
That's-
up as
Which
an
for a
estimate.
that
PC
sounds about
handheld is
right.
crazy.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, but that's, I mean,
That's
Switch
also-
has them beat by 100 and
It's
The
very
Wii U had him beat by
Yeah,
10
10
million.
million.
I'll
Yeah,
put this
yeah.
out there too, very much by intention, because you can't walk into a store and pick up a Steam Deck off of the
Oh,
shelf.
That's a big
100%.
deal.
They make
Yeah.
them to the amount of sales they think they're going to sell them.
I'm sure they haven't lost a ton of money
No.
on it, because you only if you don't overproduce and you sell everything you produce, you made money.
Sure.
They could massively
Tax write-off.
overproduce, put them in Best Buys and in Walmarts, and they could have gotten that number up to 10.
Yeah.
But they would have made so much more that they would have made less money. They would have built so many
Interesting.
more Steam Decks that are sitting on shelves that they would have lost money.
Paid for
Which,
store
to the
stuff.
Steam Deck's credit, you can walk into a store and buy a ROG Ally, which is a PC handheld, and I doubt the ROG Ally has sold what the Steam Deck has.
Right, there's no
so that's a big
chance.
feather in Valve's cap. But it is interesting. Switch 2 comes out, and people
Yeah.
are kind of like, I'm saving up. I'm not going to buy a
Yeah,
Steam
you got a
Deck.
budget. Like
Mhm.
most people can't afford 2 $400 consoles.
We don't know what
Like,
it's going to cost.
yeah.
We can't afford that.
I can't even afford one.
We're not like a certain friend of ours who bought an extra PlayStation so he didn't have to move his PlayStation downstairs when he.
Who?
That word.
Tyler?
I'm not gonna
No.
name him on camera.
Yeah, let's dox him. He lives here.
Tyler,
I'll
who
tell you
lives in-
afterwards.
It's not
Yeah.
Tyler.
California
It's not
in the
Tyler.
wildfire.
Right.
It's not Tyler. Tyler doesn't have that kind of money. He has a car payment.
I think
I was so stupid I assumed it was Tyler.
actually
I
that
love
was
you,
safe.
Tyler.
That's a safe assumption.
Yeah.
So,
Also, go.
no, go ahead. I was about to change the subject.
Yeah, I'm also about to change the subject.
Oh,
It's like
news.
we're brothers.
I recently got the joke
Run the
The
thing.
joke.
that Valve releases Steam.
I
I got that joke.
Guys, Michael B. News.
Okay.
Michael B. News.
What is Tails' name?
Who?
Tails
From
from the Sonic.
Tails Sonic?
What is his name?
What's his name?
Isn't that the girl?
no
Tails?
Tails?
The fox.
Yeah, this was a mistake.
The yellow one.
The
This
two-tailed
is
Yes.
fox.
such a
Who's a
mistake.
boy?
What's his name?
What's his name?
Is
like
it not
Tails
Tails?
is a nickname.
Tails is his nickname.
His name.
His name is Miles.
His name is Miles.
And his last name is Prower.
That's
Yeah, that's real.
Seriously,
Did you get
that's
the-
adorable.
Did you get the
You get
joke
the joke
there?
Miles
No.
Prower.
Miles per hour.
Miles per
That's
hour.
like
Thank
you.
speed.
I'm not a
Don't
Sonic
don't
fan.
count that as news because it's getting cut out.
Yeah. No, it isn't.
There's no way.
Hi, YouTube Shorts.
Hi,
Yeah.
YouTube Shorts.
No, so
Good.
this week, Ronky Kong, Danky Kang,
Danky
the
Kang?
man himself,
Okay.
we got an HD remake
We did.
of, actually it was last week,
Yeah. It was
of Donkey Kong Country Returns on the Wii.
yeah.
And it sparked my least favorite debate in all of gaming. Value.
Yeah.
I don't like debating value because it is purely subjective.
Yeah.
And I like debating or just talking about lots of things that are purely subjective, but there's two arguments. Me like price, me don't like price. That's it.
Yeah.
So you just sit there going back and forth of going like, Metroid Prime was only $40 and that's a better game. Okay, what if you don't like Metroid? Oh, well then Donkey Kong's the better game. Okay, like discussion over. It just keeps going back and forth of like, it is a full price game. It's $60.
But what am I supposed to live for, Devin?
Yeah. The debate
What am I supposed
over
to
price
argue on the internet for?
That's true. That's why it exists.
Yeah, I mean, there is like, I get that the debate is very exhausting.
Yeah.
But like Metroid Prime, like set such a high bar for like how much better it was. Like they put all these advancements in it, and then released it at 40. Then when I see a game like even Donkey Kong, I love that game. I'm not picking up at $60.
The thing is too is that like it's easy. That's what I mean is that it's so easy for me, Mr. 30-year-old gamer who was alive in 2010 and got to play it on Wii and get all excited to go like, I don't want to pay full price for it again. But like, is that game worth $60? 100%. It's one of the
Metroid Prime worth $60.
But here's what I'll say:
it's a full game.
I don't want to get into that discussion because Metroid Prime is worth $200.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
but they didn't charge $200. Yeah. Thank you, Nintendo.
Thank you.
So that's what I mean when the price thing comes up. I get that, like in general, we don't want to be price gouged.
Yeah,
we don't want to pay the Nintendo tax.
Yeah.
But it's this debate that just goes in this giant circle. Yeah. That's just like, it's full of ifs. Like if you've never played it before, pay the 60.
Yeah.
And then it starts to devolve into people saying like, just don't play it or go play something else.
You don't have to play it.
Yeah.
You don't have to buy it.
No.
Yeah.
Like I said, I bought Metroid Prime when I saw like that it was at a discounted price from normal.
Right.
And I'm like, that discounted price let someone who has played it before go like, it's a smaller investment to play it.
Right.
For people who haven't, Donkey Kong's priced perfectly fine. Like you said, these are all like the most greatest games of all time. When I see one at like $40 or at like $60 and it's a remake, I just go like,
that you've already played.
Yeah, it's like that's a little pricey, because like
for me,
right. Like, it's a little pricey. I don't like need a Switch version.
Totally fine.
That's fine.
Totally fine.
I bought that game twice. I played it on DS. I played it on the
Tropical
3DS. Freeze is the one that came out, or is it the original?
No, the original came out on 3DS and Wii.
Yeah, and has now been re-released, right?
Yep,
is
HD.
Because Tropical Freeze already was.
Already on Switch.
Yeah, exactly. I played that. I bought that game twice.
It's an
The
objective.
3DS is better because you don't have to shake the thing
That's
every
true.
time you have to roll.
Yeah,
That's a really good point.
But yeah,
and now
fun.
the Switch, I'm glad it exists.
Yeah,
like
cool.
people need to play the game.
Yeah.
And that's what
I don't know
mean.
that I'm going to pick it up at $60.
But the discussion,
I love that
Scalp
game, but I'll probably find it used somewhere.
Well, and the discussion of value can be applied to any game, and it's a shame when it gets applied to a game arbitrarily. But I'm just gonna call it out. It's arbitrary because if you're saying like, well, it's a remake and it shouldn't be priced at that, you can use any argument to say that. You can say like Mario Wonder was only 5 hours. It shouldn't cost the same as Breath of the Wild.
I feel like you have to have like a fundamental lack of understanding of how much goes into remaking a game, if that's your line of reasoning.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much, but I've heard Ty talk about it, and it seems like a lot
it's
of
a
work.
lot more than people think it is. It's not.
I just mean that like it's not so much that I'm invalidating the argument of people who don't want to pay that much. I just mean that you could argue that same point for any game.
Yeah.
And it's a shame.
So why don't
that
we? Let's argue that.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I hate it.
That
Let's go through
Devin's
each
least favorite
game.
argument point just became
Applied
in
it.
every game.
Why did I say it could be applied anywhere? No, so that's sort of where
I think comparison is where people get upset at, is because they look at something like Metroid Prime Remastered,
which is the gold standard.
And clearly, like, more work probably went into Metroid Prime Remastered than 99% of the remakes and remasters
100%.
that we see. And then they wonder, well, if that was worthwhile to do,
Right.
why isn't it worthwhile to remaster and release these other games at a lower price point?
Yeah.
And ultimately, one of the things people have to remember is that, like, the price point of a game isn't decided by the people who make the game. The price point is decided by a marketing team who go, this is what we think people in the market will pay for this game.
Sure.
And that is true of any game, unless you're self-publishing, unless you're a smaller studio that is self-publishing your game.
Any industry in general.
Someone is saying, this is what I think people are willing to pay for this.
Yeah. Honestly, given inflation recently, I'm thankful for any game that's just $60 at
that's
this point.
actually that's actually a great point, that inflation has been so crazy that a game that was $40 2 years ago might actually be $60.
No, actually,
now.
what's funny is technically when adjusted for inflation, this game is cheaper than the Wii one was.
Yeah,
the Wii one was $50, and today would be a little over $70.
Yeah.
And now it's $60.
Yeah.
So the thing is I'm
that is true.
That's why, when you start to, here's the thing is that if you can't afford $60, there's no reason to shame you and say that 60 is fine.
Yeah.
There's also no reason to say that 60 isn't fine. That's also a perfectly good argument. I just think it's a shame when it overshadows one of the best side-scrolling platformer games of all time.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can say that it has it
shouldn't overshadow the game. That's what kind of my point is, is that you can your
looks like a Dreamcast game.
Your thing should be cool. Your anger should be at the marketing team that decided the price point and not the people who made the game. And I think sometimes we conflate the two.
Sure,
right.
And I'll say that as a remake, if Metroid Prime Remastered is the gold standard, this is a bronze. They could have put more work into it and done a better job.
Yeah,
and they didn't. So part of that is what is fueling some people's anger, is that it's not even the best remake ever made.
Yeah,
and it's full price, whereas the gold standard Metroid Prime is not full price and easily could be. Metroid Prime Remastered could be $70, and I'd probably still pay it.
I probably would.
Yeah, I feel like
it was so good.
I feel like there's a lot of practices of Nintendo does where we praise them for how good the practice is.
Yeah.
And a lot of fans of other, companies and consoles will be like, well, there's nothing wrong with microtransactions because you can just not buy it and it's fine.
Yeah, sure.
Nintendo puts all these costumes in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Sure, that's fine, but it would have been fine with 4 costumes and microtransactions and you just don't buy them. Just don't buy all the other costumes.
That feels bad to say.
Because that costume is cool, really cool, is worth 99 cents. And it's
that's what devalues a game for me.
Yeah, well, see, that's also arbitrary. A remake being at 40, I think is sets the bar.
Right.
A remake being at 60, I'm like, well, I've already played that game before.
Right.
For me, a game having microtransactions for all the costumes, I go that's disgusting. For a lot of other people, they're like, that's arbitrary. I just don't buy those. I don't want those. I bought the 2 I want, and then I don't buy the others. It's Nintendo has a lot of practices that are just better than the rest of the industry, and Metroid Prime was one of them. It was they remade this game epically. It was so good. Like you said, it was the gold standard, and then they released it for 40 because it's a remake. They didn't have to do a lot of the work to make it.
Yeah.
And then when they don't live up to that higher standard, that's also fine. It's not bad, and it's not the end of the world. It's just if you've never played it before, pick it up. It's great. It's definitely worth $60.
It's one of the best side-scrolling platforms.
Yeah.
But if you have played Metroid Prime before, go pick up Metroid Prime. It's anyway. $40.
Sure. Well, and
it's so good.
To your point, value statement is something that's hard for us to gauge looking at the end product, because I can tell you, and this is true of almost any industry, my experience with the technology industry is that sometimes you have a small but very skilled team and they put together something that's incredible and they did it in 20 hours, and then you sometimes have a larger team of people who are working around the clock and slaving away and spend hundreds of hours to make something that just isn't as good.
Sure.
And you still have to pay those people.
Yeah.
And so this happens a lot where they set prices. So it's very possible that despite the fact that Metroid Prime Remastered was clearly a superior
end result
remaster, it might not have actually cost as much to make. We don't know, because it was made by Retro. It was made by these veterans. I forget the company that made Donkey Kong Country Returns Remastered. I know it's not Retro.
Forever Entertainment.
Yeah. And so it's very possible that they just had a bigger budget and couldn't make it go as far because they're not Retro Studios. And the marketing team is going to look at that and go, okay, here's what we need to do to recoup our investment.
Sure.
Which isn't a sexy answer. It isn't a fight the power kind of answer, but it ultimately is how just about every industry works, is that the money you put in and the money you get out ultimately determine your product, not really the quality of the product.
Yeah.
Right? Mario Wonder might have cost nearly the same as something like Tears of the Kingdom. Maybe not Tears of the Kingdom, that might be a bad example, but what we perceive as a much bigger game.
Sure.
Because like the length of the game and the size of the game doesn't necessarily
not always
affect the number of people who worked on it and the number of years. The salaries are the thing you pay to develop a game.
Yes.
So the salaries of the people working on it over the time frame that it was made, it doesn't really matter how long the game is. You have to pay those people, and so the game gets priced accordingly.
Right. Speaking of remakes and remasters, last week on this day, they re-released Jedi Power Battles.
They did. Yes. I can't believe I haven't played it yet.
I have played it. Good port. Good
port.
job. Aspire's really
you
good
play
at
Jar Jar.
They put new stuff in it, right?
It's
you can
unclear.
Play as a droideka or something?
Yeah, I think it is new.
Yeah, some of it's from the arcade version that we didn't have.
But
the
interesting. Yeah, a lot of it is the arcade stuff, but according to their trailer, there's stuff that was not in the you can play as characters that weren't in the original.
That's incredible.
I think Jedi Power Battles is a relic of an era that I kind of miss. I kind of miss
where
when
things were just goofy.
Yeah. I want them to re-release the PS2 exclusive racing game with the bobbleheads. It's Star Wars.
Oh, Bombad Racing.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. Which
things were just fun.
It's super Bombad Racing, and I forget which YouTuber it was. I'll put him up right here. But he pointed out the fact that he looked up in the Star Wars lexicon what Bombad means, and it means super. So it's called Super Racing.
Yeah.
That's great.
And it's the dumbest thing. No, it was just fun back then when it was just
this is
it's just like an action game.
It is. We have Donkey Kong. We have Jedi Power Battles. We have Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2.
Yeah, that's definitely the same. And those three are very similar.
Very similar.
Yeah. So, well, that was all the news I had.
I don't think I really have anything else.
What's on
I've got one bit of news.
Okay.
So, I'm gonna have to look at my notes here. A company called WeMade is a South Korean video game company that's been working with NVIDIA, and they announced this on the 6th of this month, 6th of January 2025. They made a statement about it. I think they had mentioned it before then, because I remember hearing a rumor about it. But they finally released some details about the first AI-powered boss in a video game.
Interesting.
And it's sparked a lot of debate and discussion.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I was gonna say, what is specifically?
You mean
AI
the boss contacts ChatGPT mid the game?
The boss is ChatGPT.
He's furiously eating spaghetti the whole time.
Right. The boss, it learns from the way you try to fight it, and it tries to use its abilities better to fight you.
I'm shocked that the answer is actually kind of cool.
Yeah, the answer is kind of cool. There's a couple problems. First of all, is that they announced it, and it's because everything with AI is always just this hard to read gerbil blurbs, right?
Yeah.
Is that they announced it for MIR5. Now here's the problem. I have looked everywhere about this, and I can't sort out all of the things about this. It's some people are saying we've seen the boss. It looks like a big dragon. It looks a little bit like Gore Magala from Monster Hunter, like a big dragon. It's called Astarion is the name of the boss, and it's in some kind of MMO.
Oh,
it's for an MMO that they're developing.
No one's gonna play it.
And to be fair, MMO, I get the impression it's how Destiny is an MMO.
Yeah.
So it's more of an action game from what I see. But someone pointed out that algorithms are already used for bosses.
Sure.
In Elden Ring, if you stay too far away from the enemy, it will start to dash more often against you.
Yeah,
Right.
typically,
Simple,
like
but-
what they talk about AI in this fashion, I think of what they call generative AI, which is where there's no specific response the AI has. Like in Elden Ring, if you're staying away from the bosses, they have programmed that boss to go, okay, he's staying away. I need to increase the number of times that I dash at him. Generative AI is they didn't give the AI any specific instructions. It's just running through advanced algorithms that help it make decisions and create new behavioral patterns out of them.
You've probably all seen those videos online where it's like an AI learning to walk, right? And it's like a video game where there's like a hole over here, and the AI is told like the goal is to get your character into this hole, and it just starts dropping a bunch of balls, and like each one of the balls is essentially like the AI trying to figure out how to get into this hole, and like or it drops a bunch of like little people, and like the people will just like their arms will just flit around. They're just little Lego people. But eventually the AI will figure out how to use legs and walk because it's the most efficient way to get over everything. And by the ending one, it can drop like one person and it just walks to the end. It'll walk around obstacles or climb over things. Like one of them I saw recently, I didn't bother clicking on, was like Spider-Man web swinging. An AI learned how to do that by just dropping in enough Spider-Man and giving it a goal of swinging through the city, and eventually it did it. So they're saying like this boss will have the goal of beating you, and it's an MMO boss, so it's an evergreen boss. As it learns from other players, it figures out how to better fight players. And it starts using its abilities better. It's
kind of sounds like the amiibo from Smash Bros.
Amiibo kind of would learn your patterns and stuff. Really, AI. When people say AI doesn't exist. Like we haven't cracked that. We have predictive algorithms. We have generative algorithms, learning models. But they're not AI.
They're not actually intelligent.
They're not actually intelligent.
No.
What we're doing is they're just taking information, and they have these ways of parsing it that are fairly advanced. And so, like, what they probably mean, if they announced it with NVIDIA, is NVIDIA is one of the only. There are a couple others up and coming, but NVIDIA is pretty much the industry leader in these kind of predictive algorithm as hardware. Nobody has put out hardware that's specifically designed to run these predictive algorithms like NVIDIA has. And it's sometimes used for gaming. A lot of it's used for their self-driving car stuff. Because if you think about it, a car that can learn from road conditions and the cars in the fleet and send that information across a network, and all the cars get smarter and accumulate experience, you can see where that would be of value. And it's much better if the hardware is specifically designed to do those tasks than trying to run it on a regular computer hardware. So maybe this boss utilizes something like the tensor cores in a variant of a tensor core on the server to parse that. Maybe that's what they mean, because you're right, we do kind of have bosses that learn.
And the other problem is that like when I saw this announcement and I read through some of the details, I was like, this is always the thing that kind of comes up with this, is that there are actual case uses for AI in video games. Like people have pointed out that like there's currently a Skyrim mod that uses like a very advanced plugin for essentially what is a very similar to ChatGPT, and the plugin can be configured to be like limit the characters to only understanding what their characters understand, and it's that advanced. So much so that like there's a lot of videos of like YouTubers plugging like a very funny filter where like one of them is they just like make crass puns. Everyone you talk to will just make crass puns. But it's an AI. It can come up with newer, crasser puns based on just, its algorithmic data. And it's pretty insane to watch. But if the base one just has characters only understanding what they understand. And if you ask them to like, who Obama is, they don't know. And if you like make a video game reference, they're like, well, what is that? Right? They're just confused. But if you ask them about something in the world of Skyrim, they'll know it if their character did. That's a cool use case. This company, the reason that it's like, I was shocked to see it was a partnership with NVIDIA, is that their previous announcement when they announced this game was that it was going to have blockchain technology used in it somewhere. Ooh.
Interesting.
That was my original reaction. Now someone pointed out that like MMOs already have like essentially like unreplicatable items.
Yeah.
Like in Final Fantasy, like if you get a legendary weapon, it's yours. You can't trade it or replicate it in any way. But I'm not sure there's a use case for that there. No. And that was especially at the time they announced
there's no use case for any blockchain ever.
Yeah, we haven't really found one or like an actual solid use case for a blockchain.
Because it's kind of a dumb idea.
But NVIDIA makes a lot of money off of it.
Yeah,
really? Because in blockchain encryption requires what is essentially graphics cards to process it, even though there's no graphics involved. The kind of computations necessary to encrypt data on the current stack of the blockchain that's used. So yeah, people will buy up a bunch of like NVIDIA cards basically and create an array of them that just decrypt and run crypto and stuff. Wow. And so NVIDIA makes a ton of money off of it, and that might be why that they're dipping into this game.
Maybe.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's very strange. I don't think the game was announced in March last year, and it just seems to me like when I see something like this boss, where it's like it's like, that's an interesting idea. An algorithm that gets better at fighting players. Sure. It's not that it has a bunch of moves
not
or
really
gets
a
like
new idea, but
like learning from everyone in an MMO.
Oh, sure. That's such an easy.
The difficulty of the boss just raises over time.
Yeah.
That's a cool idea.
I feel like that well could be poisoned very easily if they're not super careful. Because one of the problems that generative AI comes up against is people teaching it the wrong stuff, people teaching it to be stupid, and then it gets stupider and stupider over time. You see this a lot with like art AIs, where they like kind of poison the well by introducing bad art to it or feeding its own art back to it over and over again, and it just gets dumber and dumber.
I think there's some ways around that too, is that like if someone comes to fight it and they're like bronze tier level in the MMO and they are teaching it how to fight a bronze tier, it shouldn't apply that knowledge to like the diamond tier of the MMO. Right? And it's like it's learning from the best how to fight the best. And then it's learning from the worst how to fight the worst players where it's going to come up against.
Sure.
And that's the thing, is that the reason that like I thought it was interesting when they announced more information about it is they always announce like there's an interesting use for this, but like a modder is the one who figured out how to make an interesting use out of chat. The chat game that they showed, it's not very good. Like the first video game that used it was not very good.
Yeah.
And it's like it seems like the people when I saw his blockchain too, again, like raises my guard a little bit. It always seems like the people at the cutting edge of all of this stuff that might have some application somewhere, it's always a little shady.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to see that like a new AI or the world's first AI boss. Cool. Interesting. I'm definitely not playing the game, but I'll take a look at how it progresses. But I don't know. Maybe there's something there.
Interesting to see how that pans out.
Yeah. Keep an eye on video games could be cool or it could be terrible. Yeah. So let's hope that it's not terrible.
Fingers crossed.
Very well spoken.
Are you an AI?
That's the news, fellas.
That's the news. That's good news.
Yeah.
Good news. Just a little bit of Switch 2.
Yeah.
It's going to be
just
there
enough.
until the console launches.
Yeah, and then after it probably too, because they'll keep announcing things for it.
Yeah. I really hope we get to go to the demo event.
That would be fun.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
That put us on the map.
It put us on the map.
We finally beat Nintendo.
That's right.
That's our biggest competitor.
That's our biggest. Obviously we're in the same.
Almost got him.
Our hundreds of views. He's definitely scared.
He's afraid of us.
Would please notice us. All right, guys. You know what time it is. Everybody except him knows what time it is. Topic of the week.
Welcome to the Power Brothers podcast, where I already did the end opening. I get confused,
guys.
What week is it?
We're gonna do something different now.
Oh, cool. Let's see it.
We're gonna. No. I'm gonna go first.
Oh,
hey,
it never happens
because I like going first.
Yeah,
cool.
No.
Go for it.
So, indie games.
Mm-hmm.
Indie games often are the revival of an old series or an old style of game. Back when Mario, like 3D Marios, were going in a more linear direction, games like A Hat in Time and Ukulele came out, and they were like, let's do more of the classic, old school platformer.
Sure.
So it got me thinking, if I were to make an indie game, what dead franchise would I use it to resurrect? And that's what I want to know. You would think. No. Wouldn't you think?
You would do like a Sly Cooper kind of thing.
I'm gonna let you look around this room and see if you can get a hint as to what I would remake.
Mario, you got a Donkey Kong. So
I see quite a bit of Diddy Kong on that shelf.
Platforming adventure game.
I'm gonna make just a supercut of Michael B going, do like
a Gen Z, my Gen Z.
Those videos. Yeah,
those.
I would say maybe Diddy Kong Racing.
Oh man, no, Diddy Kong Racing.
Are you serious?
The adventure, the racing adventure. Yeah,
you've never played it. You've never played.
No, I haven't.
Shut up.
You have no idea.
What, is there a story mode?
There is. Yeah.
I'm the blue whale.
Yep.
Okay.
There is.
Phrase called?
The Blue Ocean.
The Blue Ocean. The Blue Ocean.
Blue Ocean.
I was going to say the Blue Whales. Like
I mentioned Blue Ocean Market
characters.
one time, and Michael B remembers 10% of that podcast and goes, "I'm the blue whale."
When he said that, I was like, "Isn't it an elephant on a magic carpet in that game?"
Yeah.
Taj is a blue elephant.
He's a blue elephant. I honestly thought that's what you were talking about.
No, I want to know what indie game you would use, like. If you were going to make an indie game in order to revive a series that you really love that they don't make anymore.
I wouldn't want them to revive the series.
What?
Good for you.
You tell me you wouldn't make DC Online tomorrow?
You know what?
Yeah.
You know what?
You simmer on that while I
You're
explain.
like, the movement controls just need to be
the gears
worse.
are turning and
now.
the cobwebs are flying out of my ears.
So basically what you're saying, Michael B, is the entire time Devin was explaining his question, you did not think about his question at all.
No, he was trying to think what a blue whale is and how, how it relates.
How do blue whales
The second I said, like, what about this? You're like, oh, wait a minute.
Oh, I've never even...
The cobwebs start to come off of the gears in your brain.
No, I would love to make like another I've been playing a lot of Diddy Kong Racing, replaying it, and I would love to make another like adventure racer game that pivots off of that idea of like different kart styles.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool if you could kind of mix it with Mario Kart 8, where you could build different things. You could start with a base that's like the hovercraft, but then put different pieces on it like you can in Mario Kart. And I think the big appeal of Diddy Kong Racing is the fact that when you go into like an area and you go into one of the races, beating the race is not just like getting a trophy. It's progressing through the story. It's like a platformer collect-a-thon, but with racing kind of tacked onto it. And I think the racing is, I don't want to say that it's less technical than Mario Kart, because it really isn't. It does have a lot of tech and stuff. Like, I didn't know this as a kid. I only learned this as an adult. But if you let go of the acceleration right before you go over a boost pad, you get like a hyper boost, like a green booster that launches you.
Yeah, you're supposed to like let up off and hit it right after you hit the
As
booster.
soon as the boost pad hits and the green appears, you hit it again. And yeah. So it has a lot of stuff like that. And I think that it's a shame. It's such a creative idea. And it has so much personality and flair. And nobody really did it again.
No.
Like, CTR did technically come out after Diddy Kong Racing and did something similar.
Yeah.
But after that,
Are there planes in the Sega racing games?
In Transformed, you have sections where you become a plane briefly.
Not really the same thing.
Not
I want
really
to
the
race
same thing.
I want to race a car as a plane.
It was cool that like when you're playing with I don't think Diddy Kong Racing really utilized it well.
Yeah.
Because I don't know why they did this, but if you choose a plane, all the CPUs choose planes.
Yeah.
They didn't mix and match. I don't know if they just couldn't do it.
What if the tracks, there's like a section of the track that's you play as a car and then it goes underwater and now you're as a submarine.
So Mario Kart.
But instead of like it just like being a feature that the car automatically has, like you have to design the plane abilities.
You can't use that area
mix and
unless
match.
you've designed it to. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that's pretty sick.
That's what I mean. Is I think Diddy Kong Racing kind of underutilized that feature, and it'd be cool to make an indie game.
I will answer
kind of
last.
Kerbal Space Program.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll answer last then.
So what kind of game would you make, Ty?
Yeah, Ty, what kind of game?
I would make mine is kind of funny because they actually do keep trying to make this game, but they keep doing it bad. So I would just do it right. But it is kind of a dead franchise that every once in a while pops back up, which is there were these old side scroll adventure games. A good example is a game called Flashback. There's another one called Another World. These games, they do every once in a while. I think the guy who made Flashback keeps trying to come back and make a sequel or something, and they're all bad.
But he can't do it.
So bad.
He got lucky. I think.
It's like, they're not even remotely similar to the original is part of the reason. And I think the thing that people forget when like remaking it is how much fun it was to like interact with the environment. It wasn't really just a platformer or an action game or like a puzzle game. It was all about interacting with the environment and that environment kind of dynamically changing around you.
That's why the second area in Flashback is the best part.
The second area in Flashback is a lot of people's most
so
memorable,
good.
where you take jobs in a city and stuff.
Yeah.
And I want to take that, but scale it up, because ultimately Flashback and Another World are very short games.
They are. They're really hard, so you die a bunch. And it feels longer, but if you're good at it, they're not very long.
And like my goal though would be to take that style of game and expand it out.
Yes.
To make something much larger, maybe a little more forgiving, but something that is to that what like Hollow Knight is to Metroidvanias, that it's so big and so expansive that it kind of becomes this like capstone for it. I think that could be really fun. And like Ethan was saying, the second area in Flashback is kind of the inspiration, where like you're in this big city, you can navigate the whole thing, but you're talking to people, you're basically being a detective, you're doing detective stuff. But then it also has like platforming, and it also has some like creative use of items and weapons and stuff. There just isn't quite a game that emulates that style, even the ones that are trying to be direct sequels to that game. Or
I know exactly what you mean.
Of those kind of games.
They have a really hard time recapturing the feel.
The essence.
That eerie feel of something like Flashback.
Yeah, and I feel like I could get a good handle on what that should feel like.
Yeah.
And what that, but I don't think there's that much demand for it. Is part of the thing. Nobody's clamoring.
That's not part of the game. Yeah.
But that's what I would go
Diddy
for.
Kong Racing indie game would almost guaranteed flop, because there's no recognizable characters, and Mario Kart exists.
Yep, that's true.
Yeah. Like
How would you do your DC?
How would you remake?
How would I make DC Universe Online?
Yeah.
I have thought about this for 10 years.
I know.
Okay, 10.
And yet when I
10
asked that
years.
question, you were like, "Oh, no game."
I don't know, because to me it's not a game; it's a lifestyle.
I see.
It's
We're talking about a renaissance here.
I'm
We're
talking
talking
about
about a remake.
alcoholism.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
talking about no.
Yeah.
So superhero MMO game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of being like a WoW clone where it's classes and gross and annoying and the
Correct.
awful community,
Right.
Right?
Yep.
I want and no levels.
It's going to be
Okay.
all of those things.
No level up.
No
I think
level
is what
up.
you're trying
Yeah,
to say.
no
yeah,
level
yeah,
up.
yeah.
Instead, what you do is you earn skill points.
Well, you said that no levels.
No levels at all.
You just it's an empty space that
Yeah.
you play the game in.
It's you
makes
play
sense.
in a blank cube.
Yeah.
Okay, and no fun is allowed.
Right.
You have. I want it to do like a scaling system. So like if you have a skill point,
Mhm.
right, and you go, I want my attacks to be stronger.
Yeah.
Well, now your attacks are stronger, but now you're slower.
Okay.
So you're like,
Yeah.
you're like hulking out. Like you're going
You got
to
a
the
bar.
hulking,
Yeah, right.
the hulks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're like, I want to be faster, but now your damage is lower.
Yeah.
And it does that every time you do that. So there's like an infinite possibility of what you can do.
That's cool.
And
I like
so,
So you don't get skill points. You just already have them, and where you put them will influence everything else.
yes, exactly.
So what does progression look like?
I don't know that.
Oh, the most important
More like
thing for an MMO.
Would you want it to be more arcadey, like Sea of Thieves, where when you play it, and it's not like, oh, I've played 100 hours, so I'm better than everybody else.
Well, that's the thing. I want it to be skill based, because the problem with MMOs is you put 100 hours into it and it's not skill based.
No,
it's just kind of
you just waited everybody out.
Yes.
Yeah. I could imagine a game like that really benefiting from like a soft, not like a hard enforced, but like a soft like section system where it's like if you're going to this big dark city, then you're picking a character who's like a tech Batman, Green Arrow kind of character, and then there's like crime happens somewhere in the city, and then you have to go and stop it, right? But if you're playing like Superman, like a big flyer, then the area is like, you know, more spacey, and you're flying around, and then it's like an alien ship lands and then you fight it, right? So like sectioned off a little bit, like you can take your Superman character over to that city, because you're, like you said, like Sea of Thieves, right? Like there's not as many hard boundaries. It's more, like you said, just skill based. And
I want the enemies to make sense as to how difficult they are. So a problem I had with DC is it was level based, so it followed a story. So you could be like, at first you fight Brainiac robots, and so I'm assuming, okay, those are weak, but then you fight like street level goons, and they're level 20, and so they beat the Brainiac robots.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
But then you go up again, and you're like level 200, and you're fighting the street level goons again. And their levels are just that doesn't make sense to me.
No,
the Green Lanterns should be stronger than you at any time. The Kryptonians should be stronger than that.
Spider-Man 2 did that really well. That like street thugs are always just street thugs, but then like the like bionic soldiers that show up later in the game, they're stronger because they have like equipment that makes them stronger and training and stuff.
And so it makes sense in your mind, instead of having like to.
You can identify a difficult enemy on sight rather than having to look at their level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I want to do like this kind of all around, because I like it when like things make sense. Like, why does everyone's AI look the same? I mean, why does everyone's UI look the same? Because there's an in-universe reason. Like everyone has a watch, and there's like a Computress AI lady who's blue, and she talks to everybody, and they talk to her. Something like that.
Stylistic or something like
that.
It
stylistically fits the universe,
right?
Let's say
first person or third person.
Third person, obviously. I got to look at myself.
I don't know.
He's got taste.
I got to look at myself.
I never really understood the purpose of like skins in Overwatch, because only everybody else gets to see.
I
my
really
cool
loved
thing.
my jazzy hands as Lucio.
Yeah,
I worked really hard to get.
And it's like. I want to see how cool I look.
About you? Wait,
I'm not done.
You are.
So the game series that I would revive, the reason I go last is because it's a wee bit controversial, is The Legend of Zelda. 3D Zelda games.
Throw this man out.
3D Zelda games that start with Ocarina and end with Skyward Sword are structured very, very differently than the way modern Zelda is structured.
The traditional Zelda.
Yeah, and the way I describe it is that like
more
for
linear.
me, there was this idea of like you walk into Kakariko Village the first time and you look up at the windmill, and right next to the windmill there's this big board that has a bullseye on it, and I'm looking at that going, what is that? What am I supposed to do with that thing? And I tried to figure out, I could see a cuckoo up there, and like I tried to figure out so hard how to get up there, and I was like, I guess I just can't for right now. And then later in the game, I get the hook shot, and I'm like, you literally grab onto things that look like just like that, and I'm like, we're in, baby. We're finally cooking. I'm going back to Kakariko. And then you get up there and you shoot it, it doesn't reach. And I'm like, then what is that for? And then 3 dungeons later, you have the long shot. And I literally left the water temple to go back to Kakariko to shoot that thing. It's like old Zelda's had this idea of like that on rails, like you said, a little more linear. Even the ones that are a little less the linear in the progression, they still have this idea of like, it's like a forest isn't an endless bunch of trees that you can wander through. It's like these paths through trees.
Sure.
It gives you that like video gamey feel. Like you're not in a forest, you're playing a game.
Right.
And the progression system of like everything you pick up is relevant. You don't pick anything up that you can't look at in your inventory and see exactly what it does and leads to something else. Whereas like in modern Zelda, one of the fun things about it is like you get so many weapons. A Bokoblin sword is just a Bokoblin sword, and you can throw it into another Bokoblin and it will shatter immediately.
Right.
That's kind of rad too, in its own way.
It's just really different.
Very different.
Yeah.
It's the way that, like, I really loved that your way of replenishing your health was you had these bottles. What you choose to put in them is a decision you have to make, and that's the only healing you'll have.
Yeah, right.
But in Modern Zelda, you can pause and pay the cheese tax and just gobble up a bunch of apples.
Yeah.
Because Ganon hits you too hard, right? And it's like, they both are interesting. Cooking food in the new Zelda is pretty rad. I love the food system.
Yeah.
But I miss when, like, finding a bottle was like a big deal. It was like, I can now put a fairy in this, or I can refill my magic, or I can refill my HP.
Like a cumulative adventure where you look at yourself at the end and you're like, man, look how far I've come.
And it's like those old Zeldas, first 3D Zeldas, are the successor to old text-based adventures.
Yes,
where it's like there's a letter laying on the floor and you pick it up and you read it. And if I show this letter to this other character, I get into this building, right?
Yeah.
It's the successor to those. And Modern Zelda is no longer the successor to those because
they've gone in like a different direction.
Yeah, it's not the same. The way the game progresses, if you write it out on like a whiteboard, if you whiteboard out how the game is played, it's radically different.
Yeah,
and I mean, everything Nintendo touches when they like move into a new market is golden. So it's not like
they take their time.
Yeah, Breath of the Wild is one of the best games ever made.
Yeah,
but I get a very different experience playing it than I did with Ocarina. And I'd love to see. I don't think that they can't coexist.
It's like a different style of satisfying.
Yeah,
like it's satisfying, but it's not the way this was satisfying.
Yeah, I love seeing that thing up there and being told no, you don't have a long shot. But I also love seeing Death Mountain and going like, it's glider time, baby, and like launching toward it.
Go
right?
there.
Yeah.
Feeling,
and so I don't think they can coexist in the same. They obviously can't coexist in the same game, but I don't think that there should only be one.
And a lot of people have said similar things about like the transition from like Dark Souls to Elden Ring, because in the previous Souls likes you'd see something but you couldn't get to it right now, and then 10 hours later you come across it and it was this experience. But in Elden Ring, if you see it, you can probably go over there and go to it.
Elden Ring's a great example.
Glitch
too,
that horse out,
because the thing in Elden Ring is if you fight a boss and can't beat it, you can go in and explore other dungeons. In like Dark Souls, Demon Souls, like you're in the dungeon, this is the next boss.
Exactly.
It's built exactly to the spot you're at.
There's no making it easier.
You can kind of power level by grinding enemies, but it's trying to discourage you. It's like, we designed this boss to be fought at level 15. Right. You can grind to get up to 20, and then it's a little easier. Like you have a little more HP, but like you're supposed to fight here. In Elden Ring, you go and travel around. I don't think those two things are like they can't coexist, but they don't have. They can.
They can coexist, but not in the same game.
They can't be in the same game, but they can coexist. I think a Zelda, like an indie game that kind of looks like Ocarina of Time 3D,
would be awesome.
It would be awesome.
That would be fun.
I mean, honestly, my answer to this question pre-2017 would have been sandbox 3D Mario games, because I just missed them. Mario Odyssey came out and was like, hey, we're doing it again. But before that, I missed that style, and I wished that it coexisted. So, real quick, just off the top of your head, what's the name of your game? Ty, go.
The name of my game is Flash Forward.
Ooh, that's pretty good. Michael B, what's the name of your game?
Super Suits.
Super Suits. He had that one locked and loaded.
Good.
Yep.
I'm gonna name mine the don't sue me, Nintendo. It's gonna be called Dinky Kong Sprinting.
That's great.
Dinky Kong.
What's yours, Ethan?
Sprinting. That's a tough one because
just right off the top of your head.
The Great Wheel.
Oh, that's actually a good name.
Good.
I thought you were gonna call it like the Legend of Zebtha and be like me.
I tried to name it like those old, like you ever be sorting through like the bargain bin somewhere and you pull out like the crustiest looking NES cartridge and you're like, what the F is the Great Wheel?
The Great Wheel.
It's got some
I think it's actually
it's got some like
name.
super muscular dude shooting a skeleton, and you get it and you're like a blue haired little twink.
Japanese man.
Running around Tokyo.
Nintendo, please put Diddy Kong Racing on the Switch too.
That's right. I'm upset.
Remake?
Oh, yeah.
Please dip your toes into the MMO market.
Yeah.
And annihilate everything.
Could be. Michael B, what's your topic? I want to know your topic.
David Lynch just passed away.
Yes, rest in peace, David.
Very
Great filmmaker.
iconic filmmaker.
Yep. Very sad.
Power, David.
Yep.
Totally. Basically, you can't replace it.
No.
If you see the influence, you're like, that. I know exactly where that's from. That's from Twin Peaks.
Mhm.
Yes.
That's from Mulholland Drive.
Super distinct style.
Yeah.
David Lynch.
That being said, he has many video games have borrowed from him.
Yes, sure.
And they add that superficially to their game. I don't even know if I said a word.
You definitely did.
Superfluously?
What does that mean?
It would be like
superficial.
For no
Superficially?
reason.
Yeah.
No, because I was gonna say Silent Hill.
Oh.
Uses his influence perfectly, but that's
much
not superficially. That's
it's
It's
intentional.
not superficially.
Very
I think Death
intentional.
Stranding is very Lynchian at times in some of its
I've not
imagery.
played it,
very
but probably
Eraserhead
is.
kind of vibes for part of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
The obvious one is Alan Wake.
Alan
Yes.
Wake.
Alan Wake
yeah.
is like
very
there's a Twin Peaks reference in Alan Wake.
Yeah,
like
very
there's
much
lots
so.
of like direct references.
No,
to
I
Twin
absolutely
He
agree.
seems like
Alan
he could
Wake.
be a character straight out of Twin Peaks at
Yes.
times.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Yeah.
could.
I think Lynch did a good job with surreal.
Mhm.
Like he didn't even know what he was really doing.
No.
By his own admission. That's not me riffing on David Lynch.
I want to
Rest
make a
in peace.
moving painting,
Yeah, right. Or that's
so I made a movie.
Yeah, he talked a lot about like how there's these just sort of like he really loved the fact that there was these like indefinable things that your brain wants to try to make sense out of, and he likes the fact that he put it out there without it making sense, and that you're now trying to make sense of it,
like all of his Dune movie.
Yes.
And he hates the idea of then coming out and saying, well, let me make it sense for you, because then he feels like he removed the whole reason that it's interesting to watch.
Yeah.
But I am kind of struggling to think of video games that
I guess the answer
incorporated
is
that.
superfluously, because I don't think anyone's ever done it where it has no intention.
Interesting. Has
That's
anyone ever
surrealism without intention?
Kind of Alan Wake, to be fair.
No, Alan Wake, I agree.
I guess we're just talking about Alan
I don't know.
Wake.
Alan Wake was very intentional. The Twin Peaks
sure.
references.
No, but I feel like the
style.
end of the original Alan Wake, where he's just like, it's not a lake, it's an ocean, and then everything is solved. Like him writing that line into the text solves everything. And it's like we've been asking for years. I don't know if Alan Wake 2 answers this, but like we've been asking for years of like, what did that do? What did that mean? Why did he say like he gets a hold of this script which is altering reality in the bottom of this lake, and when he writes just this one line, it's not a lake, it's an ocean. Suddenly, like all the monsters are vanished. No one in the town like remembers what happened to him. He's just gone, and all of the crisis is over. And everyone asks like, what does that mean? And I think it might have been David Lynchian. Is like, it doesn't mean anything. Like you decide what it means. Figure it out. Like it's just kind of here.
I could say, I might say it might be kind of a cheap answer, but I could say like a lot of indie games.
Life is Strange.
Life is Strange.
Yeah.
Have you seen a game called I'm Not Human, I'm Blank?
No.
It's like the word just keeps changing at the end into all these scribbles. It's kind of graphics and music sound like Mega Man Legends, but like the whole idea of the game is you're in a house. These like solar flares have started, so it's so hot during the day no one can go outside, and so everyone only can move around at night. And these strange like people have come up out of the ground and are like trying to get into houses. And if you're alone, they will just force their way in. And so you have to invite people into your home, but not the ones that might be these, what are called, the visitors. And so you invite everyone in at night, or you can kick anyone out. But like sometimes they'll like die randomly. If you run out of people, you die too. You invite people in, but then you have to talk to them and figure out if they're a weird monster from out of the ground. And it's very Lynchian. Like when you mentioned indie games, the first one I thought of is that like you talk to this one guy who
I
like
play that.
he just talks about how the world is like terrible and garbage all the time. He has all these awful things to say about people. Is he a visitor?
No, he's definitely human.
I don't know. You have another guy who calls you human every time he talks to you, but he's also like completely drunk, and he's like worships the sun now because of like how insane he's gone, and then you find out like his friend, him and his friend got drunk when it first started because they didn't take it seriously, and he stumbled outside and got burned to death. And it's like, is he just coping or is he an alien? And you play all that. It's very David Lynch. Like when I was watching, I was like, this is Mega Man Legends graphics, David Lynch's influence. Indie games.
Terrifying. Like Baba Is You is an interesting game where like you have to like become the object that you need. Like if you have there's like a key, you have to be a key. If there's no bridge, you have to be the bridge. Like I think indie games probably like David Lynch,
atypical way of thinking.
David Lynch got famous for a lot of things, but he was also made a lot of stuff that very few people watched.
True.
Just because like it was so bizarre.
Out there. I don't know if this counts as influence, but it's definitely David Lynch-esque, like Link's Awakening.
Oh,
like,
actually.
The idea that he's been asleep this whole time. Or not asleep, that he's the... What is it? The Windfish's?
No, he's in the Windfish's dream.
You're in the Windfish's dream.
There's a lot of like pop culture references in Zelda that get like in Nintendo games general that get like smuggled under the radar. I wouldn't be surprised if David Lynch's influences were in Link's Awakening, even more so than like Majora's Mask. Link's Awakening has that like that dreamlike quality, of surreal quality to it. It feels very much like David Lynch's style.
Undertale.
I think Undertale.
There's definitely some Lynchian stuff in Undertale.
I guess like where the weird is considered normal.
And
treated as normal, and
or
you're just supposed to roll with it.
I feel, not to bring it up,
they don't bother to explain
but
things
that game I was talking about, one of the things that made me think of David Lynch was that the graphics are designed to look bad. And people will like sometimes be like, David Lynch shoots all of his, like all of Twin Peaks is shot like a soap opera. Like he, behind the camera, he has this like very slapdash way of filming everything. But he knows
creates
that
an effect.
He has made things where it looks phenomenal, like the way he shoots it. He doesn't want to. He wants to do this other thing because you are disarmed by how much it looks like a soap opera.
Right.
Like when he shoots like that really funny one where he's like, it's all black and white and he's just having a conversation with a monkey on a train. Right.
What is love?
What is love? He wants the camera angles to be weird. He wants the dialogue not to quite click into place, because when it clicks into place, you get into a flow state and you're just kind of listening to what's going on. But when it doesn't click into place, you go, wait, stop, wait, what did he just say? You're actually thinking about word to word. That's what he wanted.
Right.
He doesn't want you to be super comfortable watching it. And when indie games do like bad graphics intentionally, I think of like, in an odd way, David Lynch. They're trying to say something. They could do good graphics. They don't want to. They want you to think about what you're looking at.
It doesn't. I think indie games approach ideas with like, it doesn't necessarily have to make sense, which is like David Lynch, which the best line to come out of What Is Love is, do you think anyone's gonna believe an orangutan? He's like, a jury might.
A jury might. That's great.
Once
Human's another game that is reminds me very much of
Once Human.
Risk of Rain is a series that feels like it was written by David Lynch and directed by James Gunn.
The end,
actually,
it really does. The endings are super trippy.
Because it doesn't really care if you get it. Maybe that's the soul of David Lynch.
We don't care if you get it. Also, he did the weather for years.
He did do the weather.
You sent me my favorite David Lynch quote, where he said, "The sadness will end someday, but I just don't think it's going to be today."
It's a good quote.
It's a phenomenal quote.
Good quote. Rest in peace, David.
For a genius.
Gone but not forgotten.
The
Good
sadness
topic,
is
Michael B.
ended.
He's watching this from the Red Room.
That's right.
In hell.
Like, the lighting's wrong. Start the camera over again. But this time, Michael B needs to be in Devin's lap.
And Michael B needs to be a monkey.
Replace him with bring back the Penguin Mario.
That's right.
Ethan, what do you got for us?
Okay, so I saw something and it got me thinking. I saw a smaller YouTuber talking about kind of time management. No one's smaller than us.
Not possible. It's just a non-existent YouTuber.
If you don't have a YouTube channel, you're smaller than us.
Maybe.
We got that.
But he was talking about how he's like, he makes YouTube videos, he has a regular job, and he's got a kid. Like, he doesn't have a ton of time. Sure. And so he's like, I haven't bought a game on faith in a long time. I buy them by doing a bunch of research, because if I don't like them and I don't wind up playing them, it's just a waste, right?
Sure,
I have so little time.
Yeah,
he's like,
fair.
so I just don't play games that I don't already know I'm going to like.
Yeah.
Totally fine. Like, a lot, especially if you have a lot of time consideration, you're not playing as many games. It's pretty easy to find a game to play that you like.
Yeah.
But he started to talk about Final Fantasy 16 and about how he likes the gameplay and he likes the story and he likes the characters and he's enjoying it.
Yeah.
But then he has like an hour and a half at an evening to sit down and play a game, and he sits down and he's like, I sat down and it was, I sat there and it was entirely just dialogue, and then I walked to another point and dialogue and a big cutscene and dialogue, and I walked around the base where there's nothing to do. There's no like little mini games. There's no like there's nothing interesting about traversing the base. If you have the best weapon, there's not even like gear to browse. And he's like, and then after an hour and a half, I put the controller down and went to bed and thought like, well, I enjoyed the story that I watched, but it was a little disappointing. It felt disappointing. He's like, the next day I did the same thing. Another big, long point of talking and just very, very little gameplay.
Yeah.
And then I did a side quest, and the side quest was like one fight in the middle of a bunch of talking and walking.
I would encourage him to buy a Nintendo game.
Yeah. Well, Final Fantasy 7R isn't that way.
Yeah.
No, 7R doesn't look like that. And he said, like, he likes everything about the game. He likes all the cutscenes that were there, but he's like, the lack of interactivity basically, eventually kind of just wore him down, where he just like, he's enjoying all the parts of it, but he doesn't feel like he's getting satisfied by it. And it brings up the question of how little interaction when does a game get so little interaction between you and the game that it becomes a bad game?
Interesting.
Yeah.
I have a hard time answering this. I'll go first, just real short here, is that like I have a very hard time answering this because I'm so ADHD and I love games where I have a ton of interaction and I get relatively little input.
Right.
Like, because I'm usually listening to something that I find interesting.
For the internet, he has a formal diagnosis of ADHD.
It's not self-diagnosed.
He's not making fun of ADHD.
No, yeah. But I'm normally listening to something I find interesting, and then I'm playing a game where I get to input a bunch of things, like a survival crafter or a tactics game. It's tough for me to play story-based games. So I always tell people, like, if you got a story-based game you want to play, that has to be it. You can't give me two. Once you give me two, I'm cooked. It takes me so long to get through a story-based game. When that low level of interaction is very difficult for me to play.
Yeah.
So I have a very difficult time answering this question. Like, I don't have a real answer for when it becomes a bad game, because it's all hard to play for me. Like, any story-based game is hard to play for me. Yeah. So like, that's why I kind of thought it'd be interesting to hear your guys' opinions about like, when does it get so little interaction that it stops just being like a design decision and starts going into like the territory of like, well, this is making the game worse. Even if it doesn't make it bad, when does it start to get like, oh, this has made the game worse?
Could have been better without it.
I wish Quinn had been here for this, because he would have such a strong opinion about Metal Gear Solid right now.
Yes.
And he'd be wrong.
Yeah.
And he can't say anything about it.
You're stuck.
Yeah.
Put it in the comments, Quinn.
That's right.
Oh, he will.
Write a paragraph or 10.
Yeah.
I think it depends on how cinematic the game is. Meaning, if it's you're walking. Sorry,
you're good. I'm just gonna bring it over a little bit.
If I'm assuming that YouTuber was talking about like an over-the-shoulder game where
he's talking about Final Fantasy.
Extraordinarily
16.
cinematic.
Yeah, 16 is very, very cinematic. Like he said, he loved the character.
So it's like you're walking around slowly, talking to whoever.
Yeah,
it's a cutscene he's talking about.
Oh,
yeah, and then like in between,
I
the
revoke
you
my
control
statement.
your character and you go wandering around the base to the next.
It's tough
cutscene.
because like I watched that and I was like, I know why it's hard for me to beat 16.
Yeah,
and why it's taking me like so long to get through those kinds of games.
I think actually
it was super. To contrast, it was super easy for me to beat 16. But his diagnosis is not wrong. It does have a lot of long cutscene followed by just walk somewhere to watch the next cutscene.
Yeah.
But I had a much easier time with it just because of how I parse information. So obviously this is going to be kind of subjective to the person.
Yeah, and he said that like if he had more time to play games, if he didn't have like his show, or he wasn't married with a kid, well then he'd this wouldn't be so bad because he could spend more time on it.
That's probably a big contributing factor, is the amount of time you have to play
absolutely.
But the thing I'll say too is, at what point is it? Again, I wish Quentin was here. I've been playing finally Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
Oh, me too.
Ooh.
Very slow-paced game.
Very slow-paced game.
But a lot of input.
A lot of input, and not a lot of just like walk from one point to the next. There's something to do along the way.
So the thing I'll say is use the medium. Like video games are interactive. If I've gone a really long time without interacting, I'd say that you could have shown some restraint.
Yeah.
You could have told the story differently. You know, the thing I always think about is that dialogue is often, when it's lengthy, it's often exhibition.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned recently that I really love movies where there's long scenes of no one saying anything. Because I'm like, okay, you're utilizing the medium.
Yeah.
It's not a book. It's not a radio show. It's not a podcast.
I like podcasts where it's long stretches of no one saying anything, and I didn't realize I just had it paused. My favorite kind.
What a dad joke.
The cutscene has to be. It doesn't really matter if the cutscene's long, as long as it's satisfying to watch. Like if you work really hard to get up the mountain and you're like, yes, cutscene.
Cutscene can be really satisfying too. But like when I get back from a long cutscene, when it's like the cutscene is over and now I'm back to me, I need to be doing something right away.
Exactly.
I can't
just walking.
I think it's bad design to just go from point A to point B and have another cutscene. I won't say it ruins the game. I very much enjoyed Final Fantasy 16, and I enjoy tons of games that I think have bad quest design that way. But I don't think it's good. Like a good, we talked about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is a great example of this. It has some very long cutscenes, but as soon as you come out of them, you come out of them into a boss fight or something. Like you just watch 30 minutes of a thing, and then it dropped you into an epic encounter.
I never felt that way playing Rebirth. I was like, it has as many cutscenes as 16,
at least.
But I was like, why doesn't this feel the same? Oh well, the map design is really good, so it's fun to move around the maps. And in 16, the maps, it's kind of a straight shot from objective to objective. I was like, oh, okay. In 7R, the cutscenes are broken up into like little smaller ones that are a little more easy to understand, and then big ones when a big event happens. In 16, everything is a long cutscene. If they're all long cutscenes. Yeah. And then the gameplay is just slotted in between the long cutscenes.
Now, I have a question about 16. Is that something Square's been really good about doing? They did it in Kingdom Hearts 3, and I loved it, was that I was always kind of excited during a cutscene because they were all in-engine, in-game. So, like, you know, Sora's talking to Rapunzel or something, and something's going on, and he's like, oh, we need to go after them. And then the camera would just go behind Sora, and now you're playing as Sora.
16 does do that. I don't think it does it as often as 7 Rebirth does. 7 does it a lot.
Yeah.
But I think that we were talking a little bit about this subject earlier, and I was like, if you play Zelda or Mario, the Metroid series, Nintendo loves to do this thing where you're like running, you're having a little adventure, and then suddenly your camera's moving weird. It's not following your character anymore, and you've entered a cutscene. But your guy, they try to make it seamless, and they try to do the same thing where you exit the cutscene seamlessly. The cutscene is just like two characters, and then the camera goes around, and you're like, oh, I'm back to me. Yeah. And like that is my personal favorite, but that's not even really what we're talking about. It is the transition moment, or how immersive it is. Right. It's like, how long are you in the cutscene, and what are you given to do as soon as you come out of it? Yeah. I think that's the crucial thing, is what happens when Metal Gear Solid's a great example. What happens after that hour and change cutscene in Metal Gear Solid 4 when the baton is finally handed back to the player? Is it just walk here, do thing, or are we given something really interesting to do?
That would be infuriating.
Yeah. It's one of the things I was thinking about is like, if you play a game that is 15 hours long,
right,
but and the gameplay is really fun, but it has 10 hours of cutscenes.
It's too waste of time.
Just like
Quantic Dreams games are a lot like that.
It keeps breaking up the gameplay with like you'll play for about 5 minutes and then there's a little 10-minute cutscene, and then you'll play for 5 more minutes and it's really fun. And there's a 10-minute cutscene. Oh, you played for 15 minutes. Well, now there's this like 30-minute cutscene, right? Yeah. And it's just constantly giving you these big cutscenes, or just having points in between where you're not interacting. I was like, well, but what about those 5 hours that are really, really good? And now for me, it's like all games feel that way because the way my brain is wired. But like for everyone else, it's like, they're, like you said, time constraints based on like everything else in your life. But then just like at some point, I feel like they're not using the medium they're in.
Yeah, I'll say it. I'll say it succinctly that if it could have been gameplay, it should have been gameplay.
Well said.
Yeah. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. All right, Ty, take us home.
All right. I've been thinking about this week. I was shocked. Square Enix released a pretty good PC port.
Whoa.
It never happens.
Whoa.
Final Fantasy 16's PC port was the last one, and it was real bad.
It's real bad.
So it got me thinking, what does a PC port need to be good?
What does a PC port need to be good?
Yeah, we have some games that are designed on PC and then release on consoles as well.
Yep.
That's not really what I'm talking about. A ton of games release on consoles and then get ported over to PC. This is going to be the least Nintendo conversation we've had on this podcast.
Does it run?
They aren't on it.
Does it run?
Does it run?
I mean, Microsoft has a really great track record with this because of when they started bringing games via Game Pass and things like that from the Xbox series onto PC, porting the Halo series and stuff. They did a really great job. Recently, Sony has started porting their games to PC, and they do a fantastic job.
I think they do it in-house.
Or
whoever they have doing it is doing a good job.
Third parties have been doing it longer than Microsoft or Sony.
Yeah.
With varying mileage, right? I think that some have been rougher and getting better. I think like FromSoft's was really rough PC ports, and they've been getting better. Armored Core or Elden Ring was a decent PC port, and then like Armored Core is actually a little bit better of a PC port. Sure. I expect their next game probably will be even better. Capcom used to have kind of rough PC ports, but they got into it early in the 2000s, and now they're probably the best third party in the industry when it comes to making PC ports of their console games.
Monster Hunter World was really good.
And like even games like Rise that start off on a console and then get ported later, Capcom just does a great job.
Their engines work really well.
Their engines work really well on PC. But here's my question, like the majority of third-party games that get brought to PC are a little rough around the edges. And we just kind of expect PC games in some ways to be rough around the edges because in some ways you get a lot more. PC games are usually cheaper than console games, and you push the graphics a lot farther.
I am again.
You also push the things like the resolution is higher. You're going to get 120 frames per second on some of these that console couldn't do.
Put a big asterisk against a lot of that. You might if you're in the lucky few that have
not if you have Michael B's computer.
Not if you have Michael B's computer.
That's my computer.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's true. But there are plenty of games that get 90 on the Steam Deck. I've seen people pushing Resident Evil to 90 on Steam Deck.
Take that word "plenty" off.
Yeah, fair.
There's not plenty. There are some.
There are definitely trade-offs when it comes to a PC game. We kind of expect a little bit of jank. But what do you get a PC port? And I was playing Rebirth, which is not a perfect PC port by any means. But I was playing it and I was like really enjoying it despite a couple of technical hiccups. And I caught myself thinking, this is a really good PC port. And I went, wait, why? Why is this a good PC port and some of the others I've done weren't? Because this has problems. Those have problems. Mm-hmm. This is doing things that are way better than my PS5 did them.
Okay.
I'm at 90 frames per second. Yeah. That's way higher than my PS5 could get.
I'll say you didn't take it far enough.
Oh my gosh.
What does it take for a PC
Why
to
is it
run?
good? Why is it good? Why is that? And I don't have a super high-end PC rig. I should also point out my graphics card is 6 years old. So
you have a good one though. You have a good setup.
I have a 3060. It's not a 3060 Ti. It's not a 3060 Super.
You've been on the internet too long. That's a good card.
It's a decent card. It's about a $200 card these days.
Yeah, it's just not a high-end.
It's not a high-end computer card, but but that's my thing. Like, what when you start playing it, do you go, this is a good port, and what level does it get to where you go, this is bad, I don't like this, I wish I just put it away and gone back to my console?
The reason I say you didn't take it far enough is that I often, I'm going to be controversial. I'm going to be Quentin.
Here he
Quentin's
comes.
here. Let me use my Quentin voice.
I think that it does this and that.
I have to get closer to the mic.
Yeah.
I learned that my Quentin voice doesn't pick up very well.
It's like my regular voice.
Yeah. It's Ethan's regular voice. No, the thing is I'm like, I really want you to utilize the hardware.
Yeah.
Like, I love exclusive games because they usually lean really heavily. They're usually like a unique experience that you couldn't.
Wii version.
Yeah. You couldn't have had elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I think that that's more special than just a big homogenous thing that's the same as everything. So I'm always like, give me a reason. And I think that oftentimes the PC version, for me and in my experience with someone who has just that is literally my gaming PC.
You are the least qualified to talk on this subject.
Well, I think I'm the most qualified because I'm a budget PC gamer, which is the majority of PC gamers.
Sure.
Like the majority of people are playing on a PC.
I'm a budget PC gamer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The majority of PC gamers in this room are budget PC gamers.
Yeah.
Even you yourself are not top of the line.
No.
So I'm like, I think
You're saying
that
we're not YouTubers. We are
Not
not
yet.
YouTubers.
not yet.
Not yet.
We don't have
Give me that
LEDs.
YouTube money. I get a
Give me that.
5090 today.
And we can write it off. No,
Yeah.
no, the thing I'll say is, like, we've been playing Marvel Rivals. Everybody in this room has been playing Marvel Rivals. Rachel and I played on console.
Yeah.
We've never had the game crash or drop, or
Yeah.
our frame rate's always really consistent. So I'm like,
It's not a great PC port.
the PC
When I first
version,
ran it, it crashed my PC and I couldn't turn it on for 3 days.
Yeah. Not a
you
great
mean the PC
port.
couldn't
The
turn
PC.
on? Yeah.
Horrifying.
I was like, what's wrong with it?
That's what I mean.
That's
is
more
that I'm
about
just
your
like,
PC.
Yeah, I know it is, but they didn't do that with Arkham Knight or Skyrim or
All
anything.
the 10-year-old games you play.
Or all the viruses I download, those runs fine.
Yeah, those
all
run
the
fine.
viruses run fine.
Not a problem. No, PC gaming inherently has some kinds of problems. I was more talking about the game itself.
Yeah, so I think the main thing is that it should have a good reason. Utilize the hardware.
Mods are the reason.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing I'll actually say is that mods are a big part of a PC port, and not just for downloading them though. It's gamed. I have noticed this as a solid trend. When I see a game that is a PC port and it has like a thriving mod community, and the modders are talking about how easy it is to mod, it runs better. It runs better.
absolutely.
If your game is so encrypted
Absolutely.
that like the models are done in some esoteric engine that's having to translate 5 different engines just to get this thing to run on a computer, right? It's not going to run well. It's going to run well on some rigs and not others.
Right.
If the modding community isn't there, if there's not accessibility to mod, then you've probably over encrypted.
Sure.
And if you or it's esoterically designed.
too esoteric.
It's too esoteric. And if you're bringing it to PC, it needs to run on PC. It needs to have that flexibility that comes with PC. On top of that, modders will fix your game for you.
Oh yeah.
If you have mod support, they will create a mod that like, hey, here's a mod that keeps the frame rate stable. How did they do it? Well, maybe it does something you didn't see, or maybe they just took something out you weren't willing to take out.
No, that's
But for
fair.
somebody who's struggling with it, fixes it.
Yeah.
Right? And so like mod support on both ends, just it forces you to build it in a framework that makes sense for a PC, and it gives people an opportunity, like a community, an opportunity to work on your game. To make it work on a rig. I literally was on Nexus Mods once and saw an unofficial patch for a video game I was playing that fixes this one problem on the graphics card that I had.
Yeah.
Wow.
The company
Only
making
on
the
that
graphics card didn't put that patch out.
It's so
The company that made the game didn't put that patch out. A guy was like, hey, this fixes a card.
Yeah.
It's not even the card he uses. He just fixed it because it was a problem people were talking about.
That's great.
Right.
Like,
and to your point, that's what I mean. Utilize the fact that you're on PC. What I think is cool about the PC market is the fact that unlike consoles where like if I have a Nintendo Switch and you guys have a Nintendo Switch, it's the same Switch.
Yeah.
The cool part about the PC market is that it's such a vast array of different like hardware capabilities. But that's what I would say to these PC port people is that like when I see a game come to PC and then you look at the spec requirements and it's like it's literally just like Mike Israetel just like flexing his giant muscles, and it's like if you don't have this PC you can't play the game. Why'd you bother? Like you're just describing a PS5. You're describing like the kind of computer I would need for this game to boot up is $1,200, so I'll just go buy a PS5 instead.
Right.
Make the game to where it can run at low spec.
Is your game Steam Deck verified, is what he's saying. He wants them all to be Steam Deck verified.
No, I would push on people who are making a PC port. It better run at the absolute lowest spec.
Yeah.
And
can it run at the lowest spec but still look nice?
Yeah, exactly.
It has to look
run
like garbage.
Be playable. But also
can't get 30 FPS
also
at
don't
least.
put de novo and a bunch of crap on it to where when someone has the PC rig, they should be able to run it at 8K 140 because they spent $16,000 on this machine.
Pirate Software has a really good YouTube short about piracy in video gaming and why he's never had a single problem with one of his games getting pirated. And basically he's like, it's all just economics. He's like, there was this area, I can't remember, it's somewhere, I'm gonna make myself look like a fool. I believe it was somewhere in the third world, in South America. And he was talking about how it's like fairly big market there, lots of piracy. And then we looked at it and we were like, well, the amount we're charging on Steam for people who live there doesn't make sense with the economy there. And so we dropped the price permanently there, and it's become one of our biggest markets, and there's basically no more piracy. Like piracy is almost always an economic, and when you're putting like de novo and all these other things on top of it, sometimes it's to keep people from not cheating. Very rarely, most of the time to keep you from anti-piracy. You will make more money if you adjust your pricing to the economy of the place.
Because oftentimes I don't buy those games because I know they won't play well.
Exactly.
Because that has such a huge impact. I'll just buy it on console if it's
what a silly reason
like
to port it.
Yeah. I think that that these are incredibly interesting and insightful responses. I think I worded my question very poorly.
Oh no.
So I'll give you my answer, and maybe it'll be more elucidating.
Shed some light.
Like I think I'm happy with a PC port when the drawbacks don't exceed the things I get out of it. And Rebirth's a great example. There are more hiccups to the PC port. Every once in a while I have a little stutter. But the game is so much crisper. I have it's running at over 60 frames per second. These things I think push it beyond the hiccups that I get. But the hiccups sometimes in a game, even when I'm getting stuff like that, Final Fantasy VII Remake was this way, where I can run that game at 120 frames per second, but it's so often would interrupt and stagger and stutter that I'm like, okay, this problem has now exceeded the value of the things my PC port gets. I'd rather just play this on PlayStation. And
I'd say we had similar answers then. They're not utilizing the PC very well if it's stuttering.
I think that
the problem is I think we all just assumed that because we've all played it. It's gonna have stutters and stuff, but if it's got mod support, I can download.
I can smooth that out, which is how you do it for a remake. There are literally fan patches because any Unreal game is probably going to be modded to Kingdom Come that way.
Sure.
But yeah, I do think it's kind of sad that we live in an age where like people are so lazy with the PC ports that they feel like they're counting on modders to fix it.
I feel like they're lazy. I think they're overworked.
No, I don't feel like they're. I think you're 100% right. I think the company at the top is often lazy. Yes. I don't think the people making the games are lazy.
No.
But at the top, they're like, why would we spend money optimizing it for PC? PC gamers will eat the sand and be happy. But I am not. I do not eat the sand and happy. No. Steam has a refund feature. But I will not be refunding.
I will eat the snow.
No. I will eat the sno. Yeah. Only if it's yellow. No, wait, not if it's yellow. I'm so
there
stupid.
You go. You missed it.
I will not be refunding Final Fantasy VII Rebirth because I think it hit that margin where I'm like, you know what? I think if I play this game, and I would like to replay the game on hard mode because I never went back through it, I would rather do it on PC. But
very cool.
There are tons of games that are not that way. Will Monster Hunter Wilds be that way? We're going to find out.
We'll find out soon.
We're going
to find out
next week. All right, guys. Based on everything we've been talking about, we played a lot of games.
Yeah.
But there are some games we haven't played.
That's right.
We got strong opinions about them. Guys, welcome to Games I Haven't Played, but I have strong opinions about. This is a game where you say a game that you haven't played, and then you state your strong opinion. Better be an actually strong opinion. And nobody gets to ask you any questions. They can just make maybe a little comment, maybe a little something. You give us your comments down in the comment section about what you think about our games that we haven't played.
And what games have you not played
that you have strong opinions about?
Yeah,
sound off.
I'm gonna kick it off because as the editor, I know that I never kick it off, and I don't know why. I never kick it off
because you're the editor.
Yeah. Guys, I'm not ashamed to admit. I'm not even a little bit ashamed to admit that I've never played a single game in the Uncharted series.
You're not missing out.
But now that I have played Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, and Quentin told me that it's nothing like Uncharted, I don't understand. I feel very strongly that no one should play Uncharted. What's the point? It looked like, I was like, oh, maybe it's a good Indiana Jones game. Apparently, a good Indiana Jones game is nothing like it.
He's Indiana Jones.
It's Indiana Jones, so why are you guys playing Uncharted? Quit, stop that.
Stop that. It doesn't have Troy Baker.
Aldrich, I'm talking to you.
Aldrich, you should play the Wii Indiana Jones game.
Oh, gosh.
He would love that.
Yeah, so Uncharted. Just
don't play it.
Don't worry about it. Don't play it. I feel very strongly that people shouldn't play Uncharted.
Your strong opinion is actually a PSA.
Yeah. The more you know. All right, Ty.
I have never played Silent Hill.
Really?
All right, I've never played the first Silent Hill.
Oh, okay.
But I feel very strongly it's really freaking loud sometimes.
Loud?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Oh my god! I just.
Just leave it there. Just leave it there. That was pretty good. You got me with that one, and I'm like, loud. That's pretty good.
He's not wrong.
And I broke the code. I asked a question. I said loud with a question mark. I'm very sorry.
You can ask your question.
Negative 10 points.
You can ask a question.
You just
can't expect an answer.
You can't expect there's no.
No, you're not allowed to ask questions.
That's right.
I have negative 10 points.
You're not able to. So anything you say is
that's
not
true.
even a question.
You could just say it was a statement.
Yeah.
Loud. You were practicing your Australian accent.
I'll edit it.
Yeah.
Loud, and then it just goes right back. Ethan, go.
Shoot.
So, I've never played Jedi Fallen Order to the sequel, the Squeakquel. But I played very little of the first game, the Squeakening, and let me tell you something.
That's right.
My strong opinion is that game, there was no need for them to make that game. They should have made a different game. That game is a worse version of the Jedi Knight series, and is baby's first dark side with a baby spoon.
Dark side?
Yeah.
Dark Souls?
Dark side.
Was that
of
a dark
the Force.
Of
yeah.
Oh, I thought you were referring to the DC.
No,
it
was a statement. It was a statement. Dark Seed.
No, it's baby's first moral quandary, dark side edition with a baby spoon.
Yeah,
and they shouldn't have made it. They should have made a different game. The first one I thought was kind of cool. They could have made a kind of cool sequel, and maybe it is. But because I haven't played it,
you should.
But let me tell you something. My extremely strong opinion: they shouldn't have made that game. They made a different game.
You got me with Squeakquel. That was pretty good. That got
Fun
that
fact:
got me.
DC Comics made a comic book where it's basically Death Stranding. But the baby that Batman is holding is Baby Darkseid.
Oh, wow. Tell us your game that you haven't played.
My game that I've not played is a Bungie game called Oni. Yep. ONI.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure they made that before Halo.
I think so.
But I think it has the best fighting system I've ever seen in a game.
Oh.
And you can play it because it's abandonware. And so companies cannot sell it to you anymore. You just have to go on a site and you can get the whole thing.
Really? Oni. And you should know.
Free with a virus.
It comes free with a virus, yes.
It came with one of the mini viruses that you got.
One of the mini viruses on Michael B's computer.
All right, Rachel, close us out.
All right. I've never played the Lion King. You know the famous Lion King, is it for the Genesis?
Super Nintendo.
And Genesis, I think.
I've never played the SNES Lion King, but I've been seeing a lot of clips of Gen Zers trying to play it, and they don't realize that once you die, you have to start the whole game over again. Really funny.
Yeah.
I think I could do it.
You think you could do it?
I don't actually think I could do it. I think I'd check the controller through the window.
I saw a similar clip, and he was playing the modern port, and I commented on there, does he know there's a rewind button? I don't think he knows there's a rewind button.
But what a save state is.
So, guys, that's games I haven't played.
And that's the pod.
Great podcast.
Least controversial.
Well done.
Yeah, good pod, guy. Michael B., thanks for filling in.
Great subject, Michael.
Yeah, really nice
Good
subject. Very touching.
Great subject. Guys, if you're still here, thanks for being here.
Yeah. And if you made it this far into the video, put a little tiny David Lynch in the comments.
Yes.
Which is just an old man,
Put your
For the
interpretation of David Lynch using emojis, right?
Yes.
The way he...
What would David Lynch
What
write
emojis?
in a YouTube, what would David Lynch write in a YouTube comment?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, do
That's
that.
great.
Yeah. That's a good
Do your
one.
best David Lynch impression
All right.
in the
Little
comments.
eraser head.
Rest in
That's
peace. Rest in peace, David. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. We upload every Thursday, in case you don't watch the shorts.
Know that.
Yeah.
Every Thursday, we'll be right here. Same bat time, same bat channel.
That's right.
Thank you guys for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Goodbye. See you later.